They laughed when the old man couldn't hear the receptionist calling his name. Not loudly. Just enough. A few sharp breaths. A whisper behind a hand. He stood in the center of the lobby, papers shaking in his grip, eyes moving from face to face like he was searching for a door that wasn't there. The security guard looked at his phone. The receptionist repeated the name again, slower this time, as if volume could fix it. I was holding a folder against my chest, frozen. No one stepped forward. No one signed. No one even tried. I should have kept walking. That's what interns do. We keep our heads down. We move quickly. We don't interrupt the natural order of things, especially not in the lobby where executives drift in and out like weather systems. I had been there 3 weeks. Long enough to know who mattered. Long enough to know I didn't. The old man was still standing there when the receptionist gave up and pushed a clipboard toward him. He didn't understand. I could see it in his eyes. The confusion wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Tired. He looked like someone used to missing half of what the world said. I don't know what made me step forward. Maybe it was the way his hands trembled. Maybe it was the memory of my grandmother, who lost her hearing before she lost her patience. I set my folder on the marble counter and gently touched his sleeve. He flinched at first. Then he looked at me. I signed hello. It wasn't perfect. My fingers felt stiff from not practicing. But he understood. His shoulders dropped, just slightly, like he had been holding them up all morning. He signed back, asking if someone could help him check in. The relief in his movements made something twist in my chest. Behind me, I felt it. The shift in air. Conversations pausing. The receptionist watching, expression blank. The security guard finally looking up. Asked for the visitor badge form and signed each step slowly. Name. Time. Person you're meeting. He nodded and followed along. His handwriting was neat, but shaky. Who is he here to see? The receptionist asked me, not him. I glanced at the form. My stomach tightened. He was here to see the CEO. For a second, I thought there had to be a mistake. Interns don't bridge that kind of gap. The distance between the lobby and the executive floor might as well be another country. I signed to him, asking if he was sure. He nodded once. Before I could respond, the elevator doors opened. Our CEO stepped out with 2 board members trailing behind him. He was mid-sentence, speaking about quarterly projections. He walked with the calm confidence of someone who had never been ignored in a room. Then he stopped. His eyes landed on the old man. Everything shifted without a sound. The board members stepped back. The receptionist straightened. The security guard stood. The CEO's expression didn't change much. Just a tightening around the mouth. A calculation. I stepped aside, suddenly aware of my hands still mid-sign. The old man looked up at him and signed something I couldn't fully catch. It was quick. Familiar. The CEO didn't sign back. Instead, he looked at me. Not grateful. Not angry. Just assessing. You handled this? He asked. I nodded. There was a pause. Long enough for everyone in the lobby to feel it. Long enough for me to understand that I had crossed some invisible line. Next time, he said evenly, let reception manage visitors. Reception had done nothing. But no one corrected him. He placed a hand lightly on the old man's back and guided him toward the private elevator. It was a small gesture, controlled. Practiced. As the doors closed, the CEO held my gaze for half a second longer than necessary. Not warmth. Not approval. Warning. The lobby noise slowly returned. Conversations resumed. Shoes clicked across the marble floor. I picked up my folder. The receptionist didn't look at me as she said, "You're supposed to be upstairs." "I know," I replied. I went back to my desk, hands still tingling. My manager didn't mention the delay. No one asked what happened. By noon, it was as if the scene had dissolved into the building's polished surfaces. But that half-second look stayed with me. Not because I had helped someone. Because I had stepped into a space that wasn't mine. And, in this company, stepping out of place had consequences. By the next morning, I understood it hadn't been a small moment. My access card stopped working on the executive floor. No email. No explanation. Just a soft red light blinking when I tried to scan in for a scheduled document drop-off. I stood there for a few seconds, pretending I must have used the wrong side of the badge. I hadn't. I took the stairs instead. My manager was already seated when I arrived, hands folded on the conference table. He didn't look angry, just tired, like someone asked to deliver a message he didn't write. "I've been told," he said carefully, "that you're not to interact directly with senior leadership unless instructed." I nodded. He continued, "Yesterday created confusion." Confusion. That was the word chosen to describe a deaf man being ignored in our lobby. "I was only helping him sign in," I said. "I know," he replied quickly. Too quickly. "But we have protocols." Protocols hadn't helped. He slid a stack of files toward me. Work that wasn't mine. Data entry. Archiving. Tasks usually handed to temporary contractors. I had been assisting on a research brief for 2 weeks. My name was nowhere on it, but I had done the background work. "I'll need you to focus on internal support for now," he added. For now. That afternoon, I saw the research brief printed and placed in the CEO's review folder. My bullet points were there. My phrasing. No credit line, of course. Intern contributions rarely survived into official drafts. I told myself it was normal. But then it happened again. A week later, a client came in frustrated about an accessibility issue on our website. He wasn't deaf. He just couldn't navigate the interface with screen reading software. I knew the problem. I had flagged it in a report during my first week. I opened my mouth in the meeting. My manager cut in smoothly. "We're already reviewing improvements." He didn't look at me. Afterward, he closed the conference room door and said, "You don't need to solve everything." I hadn't been trying to solve everything. I had been trying to speak. The pattern settled slowly. Not loud enough to call out. Not harsh enough to report. Assignments reassigned. Ideas redirected. Invitations forgotten. Whenever leadership was present, I became invisible. If I spoke, someone rephrased it. If I volunteered, someone else was chosen. The message was never stated plainly, but it was consistent. Stay in your lane. I began to see the lobby moment differently. It wasn't that I helped. It was that I did it without permission. And the old man, his father, had seen it. That detail floated through office whispers without ever being confirmed. No one said it directly, but everyone knew. The resemblance. The private elevator. The way the CEO's voice had tightened. I wondered what had been said upstairs that day. Not to him. About me. Because from that morning on, every time I stepped into a room, I felt the quiet calculation again. Not anger. Containment. The boundary wasn't crossed all at once. It happened in a town hall meeting 3 weeks later. All staff were required to attend. The CEO stood on stage with a soft spotlight behind him, speaking about growth, innovation, and expanding access for every client. The word access echoed through the auditorium like something newly discovered. A slide appeared on the screen. Community Outreach Initiative. There was a photo of the lobby. Of him. And his father. The image had been taken from the security camera. Cropped carefully. You couldn't see the receptionist. You couldn't see the security guard. You could see me. My hands mid-sign. My face tilted toward the old man. The caption read, "Leadership in Action." The CEO spoke about the importance of inclusion, about recognizing gaps in service, about building a company culture that sees everyone. He never said my name. He described a young employee who demonstrated initiative. The auditorium applauded. I felt my skin go cold. No one had asked permission to use that image. No one had told me it would be shown. My manager clapped beside me, smiling faintly, as if we were both part of something successful. After the meeting, several coworkers stopped me in the hallway. "That was you, right? You're basically famous now. You must be thrilled." I nodded each time. I wasn't thrilled. I understood what had happened. The story had been rewritten. In the lobby, I had stepped out of line. On stage, I had become a prop. My hesitation, my risk, the subtle warning that followed, all of it had been removed. In its place was a clean narrative about corporate values. I checked the internal newsletter that afternoon. There it was again. The same photo. The same caption. No credit. No conversation. Just a symbol shaped like me. That was the moment I stopped waiting for acknowledgement. If they could use my silence as branding, they could use anything. I closed the newsletter window. And for the first time since the lobby, I didn't feel small. I felt separate. The next morning, I requested a copy of the company's media consent policy. Human Resources sent it within the hour. Buried in the third paragraph was a clause about employee likeness being used for internal communications with prior written approval. I searched my inbox. Nothing. I didn't storm into anyone's office. I didn't mention it in meetings. I printed the policy and highlighted the sentence quietly at my desk. Then I emailed HR. Short. Polite. Attached screenshot of the newsletter. Attached policy excerpt. Asked when my consent form had been filed. They responded 2 days later. It hadn't been. The image was removed from the internal site by that afternoon. No announcement. No apology. Just gone. The town hall recording was edited before being archived. The slide disappeared from the version sent to investors. Word spread anyway. Not loudly. Just enough. People began asking careful questions about other initiatives. About other stories that looked too polished. A compliance review was opened, officially unrelated to me. But the timing felt precise. My manager avoided eye contact for a week. The CEO didn't acknowledge me at all. Then, one Friday, an email circulated from legal reminding leadership about documentation standards and media permissions. It was addressed to executives, specifically. I kept working. 2 weeks later, I was reassigned to a different department under a director who actually read my reports. No ceremony. No explanation. Just a calendar invite and a new access badge that worked everywhere it was supposed to. The lobby incident was never mentioned again. Neither was the town hall slide. But the CEO's father came back once. This time, reception stood when he entered. Someone from operations met him immediately. An interpreter was present before he even asked. I stayed at my desk. I didn't need to step forward again. The building felt different after that. Less polished. More careful. I finished my internship quietly. When the offer for a full-time role came, it wasn't from the executive floor. It didn't need to be. On my last day as an intern, I passed through the lobby at golden hour. The marble floors reflected the light the same way they had that first morning. No one was laughing. No one was frozen. I walked out without looking back.